Dude, you gotta check these things out. F1 Fishnoculars. You gotta try it.
Man, these things are nice. Whoa! I feel like I'm in the river.
Yeah, dude. Almost as good as that stuff we teach in the master class.
Unfortunately, there are no magic F1 Fishnoculars on the market yet. And so our goal today is to help you learn the skills required to look at a stretch of river and confidently identify spots that might hold a fish. I say might because unless you can see a fish swimming around or it's rising, or you grab a pair of goggles and a snorkel and you jump in, learning to read water, it's just an educated guess. Fish, they're not gonna be everywhere in the river, and so we need to use our knowledge of currents and water speed and structure, all things that we're gonna cover in detail, to recognize areas of a river that either have a high likelihood of holding a fish or close to zero. Today, we're gonna walk you through two fundamentals that are absolutely vital to you being able to correctly read water and find fish in a river. And number one is water speed. The foundation of reading water is knowing what water speed fish are likely to be in. And that's because fish, kind of like Spencer, they're lazy critters. They want to do the least amount of work for the most amount of food possible. Sometimes it's really easy to see the different water speeds. You've got banks, logs, rocks, and other debris causing water to slow down and move direction. Other times, it's a bit more deceptive. For example, from the surface, this stretch of water might appear to be just one speed. But if we look at it from the side, it's not. Check out this stick that we tied ribbons to and dunked in the river. Those on top, they're moving much faster than those at the bottom. That riverbed causes a ton of friction, which means the water at the bottom, it's always gonna be moving slower than the water at the top. So, why does this matter to you? Well, part of learning to read water is understanding what's happening below the surface. Once you understand that, picking out spots where fish are likely holding, it's a lot easier. And if you're completely new to fly fishing and overwhelmed and you just want to simplify this down to its core, here it is. You're looking for walking speed water. It's kind of like that Goldilocks zone. It's moving fast enough to bring those bugs and oxygen to the fish, but not too fast that they're exerting a ton of energy holding there. And that leads us into our second fundamental, transition points. And listen up, because this is the most important part of the entire video. If you can understand this concept, you will be light years ahead of other beginning fly anglers. Walking speed water, it doesn't just happen in nice, neat, organized patches throughout the river. Often, it's gonna occur where we have transitions. Places where different currents and depths, they meet up, they have a drink, they get to know each other. We call these seams. Seams are awesome because they provide a place for fish to hang out and conserve energy in the slower water, but they can watch for those bugs, that fish food that's drifting by in the faster water. They'll quickly dart out, grab that food, and then head back to the slower water. And sometimes, but not always, those seams, they're gonna be marked by a line of bubbles or foam. And so if you ever run into that wise old angler that's been around since fly fishing was invented, and he looks over at you with that glimmer in his eye and he says, "Foam is home," that's what he's talking about. Bubbles or a foam line, it's kind of like a cheat sheet. I mean, it's not quite on the level of F1 Fishnoculars, but it does show you the lane. It shows you where those bugs are flowing towards fish. Water speed and transition points, they are the foundation of reading water. But just like most things in fly fishing, there is a little bit more to it. You've got riffles and pools and eddies and runs and pockets. Each of these water types, you're gonna read them a little bit different, but the foundation remains the same. Those currents and transition points, they apply to all of them. And throughout the rest of this masterclass, we're gonna go through each of those water types individually. But today, let's help you solidify that foundation. In fact, we've got Spencer. He's down on the river. He's probably had too many Diet Cokes. He might be a little jittery, but we're gonna head on down to him and help you read water like a pro.
Giddy up. You just got done learning all about water speed and transitions with Alex. Now, I'm actually going to teach you something. No, I'm kidding. Alex is a fantastic teacher. But for those of us who do appreciate seeing things, I'm going to walk y'all through what seams look like out here on the water. I've got a zertle bug up top with an egg below. There are a bunch of crawdads in this river, so a zertle bug is a wonderful fly to have on. And then there are quite a few fish spawning right now, so the egg is going to attract the attention of the fish that are not spawning. And of course, we're not fishing to fish that are actively spawning, but there are going to be eggs present for all the other fish to eat. So as you can see, we've got a rock right up here, and it's creating a nice little pocket. But then on either side, we've got two beautiful seams coming on down. You can see we've got the nice fast water that's moving out there, but then we've got this slower water here next to the bank, and we've got the seam where those two meet. And I am going to drift my two nymphs on that seam and see if there are any fish that want to come out and say hello. Just gonna drip that through, see what happens. Hope and pray that a fish comes, because, you know, it would always be great if the fish would cooperate for the video. But a lot of times they don't even care that we're filming a video. Believe it or not, the fish don't care. All right. So I've run through the bottom of this and I keep hanging up right there. So that tells me that I might be a little too deep, but it also tells me if I'm down on the bottom there, the fish have probably had a look at it, and they don't want it. Now, my casts are landing a little bit too far to the left of the seam, so I'm trying to get in a spot where I can get that indicator to ride right on the seam, just like it is now. That's what I'm looking for. So if you're nymphing like I am today, and I'm nymphing because there are no bugs up on the water, we're still early enough in the year that I don't think they're gonna take a hopper, as much as I would love for that to happen. I mean, there's still snow up on the peaks around here, for crying out loud. But I'm nymphing, and if you're gonna nymph a seam, it is important that you cover all parts of the water column. Make sure you're getting those flies down to where the fish are likely to be. So if you're like me and you do find that you're impatient sometimes, and you're trying to figure these seams out, you've got to force yourself sometimes to be a little bit more patient and to really get all of the water column covered with your flies. We're gonna move up. I don't know that there's any fish in there that want my fly. We're gonna move up to this next little bit of water. Now this, we've got the main crush of the current coming right there, and we have just a tiny foam line. You can see the bubbles are going right there. So that tells me that even though it doesn't look like there's much of a seam, there actually is one, because we've got some foam line right there. So I'm gonna try and put these flies on that foam line and see if we can pull a fish up out of this stuff. We said this in our gear video in the masterclass, but it bears repeating here as well. Polarized sunglasses are an absolute must if you're fly fishing. Now, you don't need to go buy a $300 or $400 pair of them. All right, those are nice, but you don't need them. You just need a pair of sunglasses that's polarized, but that polarization just cuts the glare and it lets you see into the water. So this water's clear enough, I can actually see where my flies are drifting. So I know that, oh, that fly is actually not getting down, or hey, the flies are moving, but the indicator hasn't because there's a weird eddy that I'm on. They are just a a critical part of a fly angler's kit. We're gonna pause the video for just a second, and I want you to take a look at the water behind me and tell me where you think the fish might be holding. More than likely, the fish are holding somewhere maybe along this seam. There might be some in the middle pocket here in this nice slow water, or they might be on that far seam there on the right. So we've learned about this before. We want to work close to far. So I'm going to fish the water that's closest to me first, and then work out to the water that's furthest away from me. So the water that's closest to me that I can most easily reach is this little seam right here. So I'm just going to throw a cast up into it. I was a little far to the right, but that'll be okay. We'll let the flies drift down through it and see if anybody is home and wants to play. That was me catching bottom. And you can see we've got some foam bubbles going on the water here. I'm just trying to cover, oh, how about that? Just trying to cover every bit of water. And we did. That was actually in some of the slower stuff, but there we go. Oh, popped off. So my off-camera net man completely flubbed that, and we lost the fish. No, it wasn't Alex's fault at all. That fish just popped off. I'm fishing barbless hooks. It'll happen sometimes. It wasn't a great hook set, but that was really cool because that fish was in a little bit of the slower water. I thought they might be hanging a little bit closer to the faster stuff, but that tells me the fish might be in a little bit of the slower stuff today. So I'm going to use that to inform where I put my flies as we keep moving up. So I took a couple of steps up. I was catching bottom here at the back of this pool, and I took a couple of steps up, and we can see a really deep bucket right here where it just gets deep. And then if we look out there, we've got the main current, right? We can see those rapids coming in. And then we have almost like a secondary seam off of that current where this water, maybe about 1.5 rod lengths out from me, is moving kind of quick. It's not as quick as that stuff, but it's moving a little quicker. And then right here over this deep stuff, it's not moving very quickly at all. So we have a little bit of a seam here where the water in the pool is not moving very quickly and it's hitting this more medium water. Then we have the medium speed water that's going on out there, and then we have the big current. So I'm going to be focused on the pool, the seam between the pool and sort of that walking speed water, and then I'm going to really, really work that walking speed water as well. I mean, every river is just a collection of seams and different water types. So all we're doing here is I'm looking for the seams and I'm fishing them. Okay, the river is big, yeah, but I'm finding the seams. And if you guys noticed, how far off the bank did I catch that last fish? How far was it, Alex? Yeah, it wasn't very far. Oh, that's definitely bottom. I felt that giveaway that time. Anyways, point being, I wasn't that far off. Yeah, it's a big river, but the fish are still going to be holding where the water is slowing down and where the water is transitioning from fast to slow. They're still going to be in that walking speed water. So I'm looking for walking speed water. I'm looking for seams. I'm putting my flies there. That's all a river is a collection of currents, seams, and then different water types. I thought that one was a fish, but that was 1,000% bottom. Part of fly fishing and part of this experience is stacking all these experiences that you have onto one another so that you can learn from them. It can be frustrating, but you can bet I'm going to build off of this, and next time I'm on this river or next time that I'm out fishing, I am going to remember back to, hey, what did I do wrong? I might need some time to sit in the truck and think this through more than just right now here on the riverbank. But there is something to learn even from the days when you don't catch fish or the fishing's really slow. I hate the phrase, well, that's why they call it fishing and not catching. But that really is why we call it fishing and not catching. If we could dial it in and be perfect with it every single time, they get kind of boring. Part of the allure of this is the unknown, right? Are we gonna catch a fish today? Well, I don't know. We did, we got the one. We didn't catch him all the way, but we got at least one. And all that is to say is that this experience, fly fishing, it involves a lot of learning. It involves a lot of trial and error. And the only way you are going to learn those things for yourself is to quit watching YouTube and go out and get on the water. The next video in the masterclass will show you how to fish water that most other anglers just flat out ignore. Check it out right here.